and the Todd Family YouTube video, wherever you are, whatever you may be doing. Thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. For all you Monday through Fridayers, it's about time to wrap up the weekend and get ready to start a new work week. If you jump on here live here on this Sunday evening, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Make sure to give the video a like, a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so and share the video on all social media platforms. Good evening, Keveron. Glad to have you here. As always, tonight I want to talk some college football, all the games of note from Friday night and yesterday. And if by some chance you're an NFL fan, you have any thoughts on today's NFL action besides the game that's on Sunday Night Football, please feel free to let me know. And when I did a video, I think it was Thursday, and I talked about all the games of note coming up on Saturday. I said on paper it looked like none of the Friday night games were worth talking about, but more than likely at least one of them would end up being closer than you would expect, and it was Louisville and James Madison. Now, Louisville won the game 28-14, but James Madison actually had the lead 14-13, and then Louisville scored the last 15 points. But Miller Moss is just not very good. I think Louisville will still get to 7 or 8 wins because Brom is their coach, and Brom's a fantastic coach, and Brom is a quarterback genius, so he can probably get more out of Miller Moss than anybody else could. But Miller Moss transferred there, for one, because Brom is a quarterback guru. For two, he pretty much lost his job at USC because he sucks, and he only had like 150 passing yards. He's just not very good. He slow to deliver the football, and his accuracy is average, and his arm strength is average. He's just not very good. And then as far as yesterday goes, hey there, Cole. Glad to have you here. And Cole, I think it's the first time I've seen your name in the comment section. If it's your first time being here, whatever the reason why you're here, thank you for stopping by. And if it is your first time here, feel free to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and share the video on all social media platforms. Tell your friends, tell your family. And Cole, I'm glad you asked, and you must be new to the channel because I've mentioned this before. I don't have an NFL team, and that's the one good thing for me about watching the NFL. I watch it because I love football, but in any NFL game I watch, I don't care who wins, I don't care who loses. There's no team that I really like, and there's no team that I really despise. So when I watch a game, I am really seriously watching with no dog in the fight ever. I never care who wins. I never care who loses. And Belinda, thank you for being here. I am a Clemson fan, but I'm not a Clemson homer, and this is not a Clemson channel. I put all the Clemson stuff in the background, so when people watch for the first time, they can tell right away who my team is. If you cut me, I bleed orange. They're my team. But I don't come on here all the time and only talk positive and never talk negative. And I don't come on here all the time, and I'm not one of those supposed Clemson fans that's always negative and they're never going to win another game. I don't do that. And every video I do, I don't talk about Clemson. But I'm a Clemson fan. I have been for almost 30 years. That'll never change, but I'm not a Clemson homer. If people like Clemson, good. If they don't, I don't really care. But on to more games from yesterday, and thank you for liking the channel, Cole, but I do not have an NFL team. It used to be the only team I hated back in the day was the Cowboys, but they've been so average for the last 20 years that there's really no reason to hate them because they're not good enough to hate anymore. Since they've become mediocre, Cole, there's just no team that I like. and no team that I hate. So when I watch NFL game, whatever game it is, I never care who wins. I never care who loses. I ain't got a dog in the fight, and I don't bet. So I never have money on the line. I just watch it because I love football. Iowa State beat Iowa 16-13 with a late field goal, and again, Iowa, like every year, has no offense. I don't know how Kirk Ferentz gets to 7 or 8 wins a year with no offense at all, but at one time, Matt Campbell just could not beat Iowa, even though most years Iowa State had the better roster. But Iowa State's now won this game 3 of the last 4 years, so I guess you could, so to speak, say Matt Campbell has gotten that monkey off his back and he can now beat the Hawkeyes because he's beat them now 3 of the last 4 years. And Iowa State's hard to figure out because on the years you think they're going to be really good, they're not. And the years you think they're not going to be very good, they are. And since they were, I think, a 9-win team last year, everybody expected them to take a step back this year and only win 5 or 6 games because on paper it looked like on offense all they had was Rocco Becht, and that's it. But they're off to a 3-0 start. And then NC State beats Virginia in a non-conference ACC game. They don't want to play 9 conference games, so they only schedule 8 conference games, but then they schedule a conference game as a non-conference game to pick up a 4th non-conference game. So NC State wins it, but they're not 1-0 in the ACC. They're 0-0 in the ACC, 2-0 overall. It was 24-14 Virginia at halftime, but in the second half, NC State scores 21. Virginia only scores 7. And Virginia threw a pick in the end zone with about a minute to go to help the Wolfpack seal the deal. Now, NC State's quarterback, C.J. Bailey, he's fun to watch, and he's really, really, really good. But outside of him, it looks like they don't have much on offense on paper. But yet their running back, Hollywood Smothers, has been really good through 2 games. And then they've got a freshman wide receiver named Teddy Hoffman, who's been very good through 2 games. But NC State's problem is, they had Tony Gibson as their defensive coordinator forever. Well, he finally left to become a head coach at Marshall, and their defense looks totally different already. So this ain't one of those years where NC State can score 20 points and win. Most games now, if they don't score 31-35, they're not winning. You can tell already that without Tony Gibson, their defense isn't near as good. Jacksonville State defeats Liberty 34-24, and that's relevant because now in the first 2 weeks of the season we see Liberty and Army and Boise State, who some people had one of those 3 teams as the group of 5 playoff team. Well, now Liberty has a loss, Army has a loss, and Boise State has a loss. Baylor in double overtime defeats SMU 48-45, and Baylor's quarterback Sawyer Robertson leads the nation in passing through 2 games, but SMU was up 14 with 5.5 minutes to go in the game and then loses it in double overtime. And speaking of being down late and coming back and winning, Syracuse was down in the 4th quarter to UConn 17-6, and Syracuse comes back and ties it 20-20, and then Syracuse wins it in overtime over UConn 27-20. And then Missouri defeated Kansas 42-31. Now, this wasn't the typical 42 for Missouri. They missed an extra point, so they had 5 touchdowns, but instead of 35 points, the 5 touchdowns was 34 points, and they had 2 field goals and a safety. So Missouri defeats Kansas 42-31. The first half was close, tight, contested game, but then about mid-3rd quarter, you could tell that Missouri was starting to pull away and they were the better team. But I'd have to say It probably depends on if he can stay healthy all year long and what their record ends up being, because we know that they always claim the Heisman Trophy goes to the best player. The Heisman's a joke, and I quit caring about it 25 years ago. But for all the ones that care about it, I'd have to say that if Jalen Daniels stays healthy and Kansas wins 8 games, he should win the Heisman. Now, he probably won't, because even though the Heisman's a joke to begin with, it never goes to the best player. It goes to the best player on the best team. And if Jalen Daniels has 900 touchdown passes, if Kansas goes 8-4, he's not going to win the Heisman. But Arch Manning was supposedly the favorite when the season started. It probably still is, just because his last name is Manning. But, against Ohio State, he was awful. And if I was a voter, I'd have marked him off right then, because I don't care what you do against San Jose State. It's what you do in the big-time games, and he was awful against Ohio State. And anybody that ever had Cade Klubnik as a Heisman candidate should never be allowed to watch football again. You're an idiot if you think Cade Klubnik was ever a Heisman competitor. It's not happening. And I've said for 2 years he shouldn't even be drafted in the NFL draft. But if you think he's a Heisman candidate, you don't know football. He's a joke. But, since Arch Manning struggled and Cade Klubnik should never even be considered in the first place, through 2 weeks, I don't even know who you consider the Heisman favorite. None of them have looked good right now. To me, I'd say the one that's looked the best would either be Jalen Daniels at Kansas or Carson Beck at Miami. Now, Miami plays South Florida, I believe, this weekend. We'll talk more about that coming up later on in the week. But, South Florida's 2-0, so if Carson Beck goes out there and has 3-4 touchdowns against South Florida, he's probably going to be your leading Heisman candidate through the first, couple of weeks of the season. And thank you for that, Nightbot. Appreciate that. You're reminding everybody to leave a like and turn on notifications, so when I post a video, you will be notified on your phone, TV, tablet, or whatever device you watch us on. And Ole Miss, like always, against Kentucky, struggles. Kentucky had the lead for a while, but, Lane Kiffin always plays, the Akrons and San Jose States and the nobody teams and puts up 90 points. And people think, oh, Ole Miss, they're a great team. And then they get ranked number 5 or 6 in the FPI poll. And then when they play somebody relevant, they struggle. And Kentucky is awful. And this was a fourth quarter game, but Ole Miss wins it 30-23. And the team I just talked about, South Florida, they defeat Florida 18-16, and South Florida won it as time expired on a 20-yard field goal from Grammatica. And Grammatica's got to be the 900th kicker named Grammatica. I'm sure he's kin to the family somehow. Got to be the son of one of the former Grammaticas. But it seems like there's been Grammaticas kicking in football for 20 years. But, Florida has struggled the last couple of years. And somehow, some way, Billy Napier has kept his job. And they always say it's because we ain't got a quarterback. We ain't got a quarterback. We need Lagway. We need Lagway. Well, they've got DJ Lagway now. People thought he was hurt because he pretty much didn't practice all spring and all summer. He's not hurt. He's playing, but guess what? Florida still sucks. So they might win 5 games, maybe, because they look inept, absolutely inept on offense, even with DJ Lagway. So if Billy Napier keeps his job this year, I don't know how, because they've been using the excuse, we ain't got a quarterback. Well, now they got DJ, who everybody says is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and they still don't look good. And probably the team that I'm going to be the most wrong about, I think on most of my predictions, I'm going to be pretty close to being right on. But the one team that I'm going to be way wrong on, and if you watch the video that day, I even said in the video that talent-wise, this team is probably a 5-win team max. But I had enough confidence in their coach that I thought he could get the best out of the talent and still manage to get to 7 or 8 wins. But after that game yesterday, It's not happening. They're probably going to be a 4 or 5 win team. That is West Virginia. They play the Bobcats of Ohio and put up 10 points. Ohio beats West Virginia 17-10. So even with the genius on offense of Rich Rodriguez, the Mountaineers still can't score points. And a game that most people thought would be close, and I was hoping it'd be close, but it wasn't. Another team that I did a preseason video on because most people have them either as a playoff team or on the outside looking in and barely missing it, which right now, before this weekend's game started, they were ranked number 11. So right now they'd be in the playoffs, but I picked them to go 9-3, and 9-3 is probably top 15. But since this team doesn't have a huge football tradition, I don't think they can be like an LSU or like a Georgia, like a Texas, like Ohio State and go 9-3 and get in. They're not getting the benefit of the doubt. So 9-3, I don't think would be good enough for the playoffs. That's Illinois. But they played Duke, and Illinois wins the game 45-19. And then in the game that, for some reason, Clemson was like a 32-point favorite in, and I didn't understand that at all because Clemson has an average offense, and that's being kind. And in order to win by 32 points, that pretty much means Troy would have to not score at all. But somehow, someway, Clemson was favored big. Didn't understand it before the game. Still don't understand it. But Clemson wins 27-16, and the second half they look good, but the first half, they looked like a doo-doo sandwich. But honestly, even if they'd have beat LSU last week, I think they'd have still looked like a doo-doo sandwich in the first half at least, if not the whole game, because you open up with LSU, and then 2 weeks later, you play Georgia Tech, and most people have Georgia Tech as a 9 or 10 win team. So, 2 of your first 3 games, you play a top 10 LSU and a possible top 20 Georgia Tech, and then sandwiched right in the middle is Troy. That's a team you should just show up and beat because you're better than they are. So even if they'd have beat LSU, I think they'd have struggled in this game, and they did struggle. But if you beat LSU and then you struggle to beat Troy, nobody cares. But you lose to LSU and then you struggle to beat Troy, and the sky's falling in, you're never going to win another game. But they ran the ball a little bit better, but running really doesn't matter until they get Cade Klubnik going. And I don't know how you get Cade Klubnik going. Well, first of all, because he sucks. But second of all, you want to establish your running game, and you spent all spring and all summer saying that you were going to be a run-first team, and then you only pass basically when you wanted to. So if you become a run-first team and focus on running the ball, how do you get Cade going? He's not going to get going by handing off. But if you make Cade throw the ball to try to get him going, then you can't establish the run. So I really don't know how you get Cade going, but Cade's always been just average at best. But in these first 2 games, he ain't even average. He's pitiful. He's throwing the ball way too late. He's staring down receivers. He's running when he shouldn't. He's not running when he should. He's not reading the defense. He's got happy feet. All the things you see as a freshman that are supposed to get better, and everybody thought had got better because, Texas had a top 10 defense last year, and when Clemson played Texas in the playoffs, their running back basically played but couldn't play. He was hurt. So you're basically one-dimensional, and everybody knew you were one-dimensional, but yet they still moved the ball against Texas. So you thought Cade had fixed all those mistakes. He did. His happy feet has returned. His not reading the defense has returned. His staring down receivers has returned. His throwing the ball way too late has returned. He almost got Tyler Brown killed yesterday. Tyler Brown got hit in the helmet, and it was a helmet-to-helmet hit on the defense. But it was Cade Klubnik's fault because Tyler Brown was open for about 45 seconds. And then Cade finally threw the ball, and by the time he got there, the defender was there. But Tyler Brown could have ran from Clemson all the way to cow pans and never got touched. And Cade just didn't throw the ball. So they somehow, some way, got to get him going. I don't know how they do it, but until they do it, they're going to struggle. They might win a couple games because their defense looks a lot better. But if they lose to Georgia Tech Saturday, they're going to be last year's Florida State. I don't mean 2-10, but I mean as far as a team that comes out ranked top 10 and everybody has high expectations on, and they don't meet them. But if you open up 1-2 and your only win is a struggle against Troy, and you lose to LSU and Georgia Tech, well, guess what? Florida State's going to beat them. SMU's going to beat them. South Carolina's going to beat them, and they're going to struggle to get to 7 wins. Memphis defeats Georgia State 38-16. And now that Liberty and Army and Boise State all have a loss, we'll have to keep an eye on Memphis and Navy as the next Group of 5 team that has a chance to get that Group of 5 playoff spot. It'll probably be down to Memphis, Navy, and Tulane as long as those 3 teams stay undefeated. I'll have to go back and watch it again, but I was watching a lot of that game on YouTube, and I swear that Georgia State's quarterback was T.J. Finley. And I know T.J. Finley's been in college football for 12 years. He's had to have played for 97 teams by now. If it was T.J. Finley, I don't have any idea how that kid is still in college playing college football. But I swear it was T.J. Finley, and I thought, how in the world is this kid still playing college football? He was playing college football when I was in high school. How he's still playing, I don't know. And another game that was supposed to be close because it's 2 average football teams that was close for a while, and then one team pulled away, was Vanderbilt and Virginia Tech. Vanderbilt ends up winning it 44-20, but it was a close game for a long time. This will be Brent Pry's final game, final season with the Hokies. And if you look at his record, his overall record is, it's absolutely atrocious. And this day and time, the way teams fire coaches like crazy, how the man ain't been fired yet, I don't know. Because every season he's been there, they've been hot garbage. And I've seen no sign of a turnaround. But if you look at his overall record, yeah, it's terrible. But very rarely do they get destroyed. I think I saw a stat that last year in their 7 losses, 5 of them were 7 points or less. Every game they play, every team they play, they hang in there, they compete. They usually make it a late 3rd, early 4th quarter game, and then they find a way to lose. So they're not getting destroyed by anybody, but they just can't win a close game. And you have to be able to do that because it's very rare in football, no matter how good you are, how bad your opponent is, you're not going to win every game by 30 points. It's just not logical, it's not factual, and it's not going to happen. And then Army defeats Kansas State 24-21. I thought Army was going to get off to an 0-2 start, and then they find a way to win the game late in the game. And then the primetime game from last night, Oklahoma defeated Michigan 24-13. Now, John Mateer is the real deal as a Sooners quarterback. Kid's really good, but they're going to have to find some kind of offense that's not John Mateer, or they're going to get him killed. I think he ran the ball 20 times and then threw the ball, I think, like 33 times. So 50-plus plays were him. He's, of course, the passing game. He's also most of the running game, and he's not going to run the ball 20 times a game all year long and not get banged up. It's just not logical. It's going to happen. You don't want it to, but you watch football long enough, you know that's going to happen. And then probably, as of right now, it looks like an upset, but I'm not sure that by the time the year ends, it'll be an upset. And I mentioned, when the season started that a lot of people think Arizona State is still going to be a top 15 team, but, Cam Scatabo, whatever you want to call him, he was pretty much their offense last year, and he's gone. Sam Levitt's good, but they just don't have a lot of pieces on offense now besides Sam Levitt. But they were number 12 when the weekend started, and Mississippi State scores late to win the game, 24-20. But when the year's over, Arizona State may end up going 6-6 or 7-5, and if they do, then this win's not going to be that big. But if they do end up being 11-1, 10-2, like some folks think they still will, then that'll be an upset. And I think everybody's big on Mississippi State's coach, Jeff Lebby, but I think most people know that they just don't have much right now. Got a great coach, but talent-wise, Mississippi State's just not there. But Lebby knows how to get the best out of what he's got. The problem is he ain't got much. And then Navy defeats the UAB 38-24, and then a couple games of note I thought were worth mentioning because this game went to double overtime. Michigan State ends up defeating Boston College 42-40, and then UNLV defeats UCLA 30-23, and Nico Iamaleava looks like an idiot right now. You know, he left Tennessee and thought he was going to get bukus of money from UCLA. I think he ended up just about taking a pay cut to leave Knoxville and go to Los Angeles. But UCLA looks absolutely terrible. UCLA, Kentucky, Virginia Tech, I think right now are probably the worst three Power 5 teams. Now, Power 4 teams. Now, of course, that can change as the year goes on, but I don't think it will. I don't know if UCLA is going to win 3 games. I don't know if Kentucky's going to win 4 games, and the Hokies are probably going to win 4 games. And then right there with them is Stanford. Stanford's probably only going to win 2 or 3 games. So I would say that right now it looks like those would be the worst Power 4 teams. Now, of course, there's a group of 5 teams that are worse, but I'm just talking about as the 4 power conferences. UCLA is awful. Virginia Tech is awful. Kentucky sucks. And Stanford sucks. I think a lot of folks thought that Cal was going to be really bad, but Cal's got a quarterback, and he's the first player I've ever seen that nobody tries to pronounce his name. You know, when DJU first got to Clemson, people would say his name, but then it was so long that they just cut it short because it took too long to say his name, so it become DJU. But Cal's quarterback, I ain't heard anybody, whether it's radio, TV, anything, even try to say that kid's name. They just show you how his name is spelled and let you pronounce it, so he'll eventually get a nickname. But that kid had no experience at all, and he looks really good so far. So Cal's still not going to be great, but I think they're going to be better than expected because of how good that quarterback is. But Stanford sucks, UCLA sucks, Virginia Tech sucks, and Kentucky sucks. Those 4 teams right now are the worst 4 Power 4 teams. Any thoughts on any of this, please feel free to let me know. And just like Nightbot said, don't forget to leave a like, turn on notifications if you have not subscribed. Please do so, and share the video on all social media platforms. Well, let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. The hunchback of Notre Dame didn't believe he needed back surgery. He stands corrected. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them.